Hi guys, this is a little bit of help with lesson 5, practice and problem solving. And the reason I'm helping you here is because there's a couple of different symbols and things that you may not have seen yet this year. So one of the things I want to tell you is that when you go to your Google Classroom and you go to the resources, there's a perfect cube chart there as well as a perfect square chart. So I also placed on your resources perfect cubes so you will know which numbers are actually perfect cubes. And you can take a look at that chart, and that chart will help you determine some of the things that you may see here in your practice and problem solving. So I'm going to open up. If I go to classwork here and I see the perfect cube root chart, which is right here, and then it has a website that I can go to get me that chart. Here is the chart. You may want to have this chart opened whenever you do this. Now notice that I have the chart all the way up to 50. We are not going to know all the way up to 50. We only actually need to know the first 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this box right here, these 5, they're the ones you have to know before you go to high school. However, these ones will help us whenever we're trying to estimate some of our work. So if we take a look at this first question on practice and problem solving, wants to know the cube root of 512. So I could take out my calculator and I could clear it off and do the cube root of 512. And I could see that the answer is 8. I could also look at my perfect cube chart and see that the cube root of 512 is equal to 8. It's down here on the bottom left. So my answer to this one is fairly simple. The cube root of 512 is equal to 8. Okay, now, if I check my answer, I got it correct. Excellent. And say okay, and I will move on to the next one. So my next question then tells me this. What is k squared equals 30? Here's the problem. Is 30 a perfect square? We know we have to find the square root of both sides. The square root of k squared is k, which is right here. But do we know the square root of 30? 30 is not a perfect square. So when we go to our calculator and we do the square root of 30, we are going to get this number. Now notice here on your practice and problem solving that this says round to the nearest tenth as needed. Now, do you see this goofy equal sign right here? That sign is a sign that happens whenever we can only approximate something. Because 30 is an irrational number, the square root of 30 is irrational, we really don't know it because it goes on and on and on forever, so we don't know what that number is. Therefore, we use the approximately sign. However, we did figure out that if we round to the tenths, if we take a look at our calculator says 5.47. We don't really need these numbers over here. This 7 that's sitting right here in the middle tells this 4 what to do because this is the tenths place. The 4 is in the tenths place. The 7 tells the 4 to go up. So my answer rounded to the nearest tenths place is going to be 5.5. So therefore, I have to put in 5.5. Then check your answer. Okay, that's incorrect. Although your answer is correct, there is another answer as well. So let's look back at here. Round to the nearest tenth as needed. So what do they mean if we round to the nearest tenth as needed? Here's what we need. The other answer we could possibly have, since this is squared, I'm assuming that we are going to have to put in the positive and negative sign. So they kind of tricked us there, didn't they? So let's see if this is correct. There we go. So notice that the squared tells us we have to have 2 answers, and that positive and negative symbol is on your toolbar. This symbol right here is approximately 2. The only reason it's approximately 2 is simply because we don't know the answer to the square root of 30 because it's irrational. It's not a perfect square. All right, let's take a look at another question. Okay, here's the cube root of 729. Type an integer. Well, if I look at this chart, the cube root of 729 is right here. It's 9. If I don't want to look at my chart, I could do it on the calculator. Here's the deal with cube root, though. Remember, the cube root is only positive, so therefore I do not have to put in a positive and negative symbol. Okay, and one more question with you so you can understand what's going on here. The area of the square garden is 81, so we know the area is 81. So if you know the area, you should know that if you do the square root of the area, you will figure out the side length. So the side length for this one is going to be 9. Now, could I put positive and negative 9? Yes, I could because it's squared. However, since this is a distance, I'm assuming that all they want is the positive answer. So let's check and see if that is correct. Yes, that is okay for that one. Okay, the next question. K squared equals 59. This is irrational. So if it is irrational, I know that my estimated answer is going to be positive or negative because it's squared and it has two answers. And it says to use a comma and separate these as equal. It says first estimate using perfect square that's closest to 59, then use a calculator. So let's use the calculator. The square root 59 is equal to 7.6. The 8 tells the 6 to go up to 7. So let's see if we round it correctly. Say 7.7. Check our answer. That's incorrect. And here's why. Because it said take the square root, simplify the result, be sure you find all of them. I believe they wanted us to put only first estimate using a perfect square, then use a calculator. We only want to estimate this to the nearest perfect square, which would be 7.7 is closer to 8 than it is to 7. So let's see if that's correct. There you go. So sometimes we have to check our answer. So if we miss that, we can go down here to the similar question if we needed to. Oh, sorry. And so use a calculator around to the nearest tenth. So if we did this to the nearest tenth, we would know because we just did it, it would be 7.7. Okay, and that's also good. So you may see things like that. Those are just some problems that you may run into that may fool you a little bit. But don't panic on them and use the question help and use your calculator and use the resource of the cube root chart to help you out.